So we never planned on adopting. That was never on our radar. We come from pretty big families, and we just thought we'd have a big family. I'd been reading Kisses from Katie. She adopted from Uganda. And I all of a sudden felt my heart pounding, and I don't even know how to explain it, but I very clearly felt like the Lord saying that he wanted us to adopt. And I remember saying out loud, "Are you asking us to adopt?" And it was totally foreign to me.
And that's just not who I was. Other people adopt, but not the Gehring family.
And I remember telling Nathan, like, I think we just need to pray for a really specific sign. And Nathan's funny because he's like, well, what do you think? We're going to drive by a church and the billboard's going to say you should adopt? And I was like, yeah, like something really, I would like a really good sign like that. And God was so good because probably like 2 days later, Nathan had left for work kind of late.
I was late, I was frustrated, I was listening to another radio station that I usually didn't listen to, and I had heard a message kind of in the background about a young girl that was adopted. It really touched my heart, and I was convicted to the point like, that's God's calling in our life. So I called my wife up right after hearing that on the radio, and I go, dear, I'm all in.
Started out in Ethiopia because we were basically like, Lord, if you're asking us to adopt, surely there's some healthy children.
About a year into it, we were told that they're closing that country. So we were a little bit disheartened, a little bit like, Lord, what do you really want? But you know what? We're like, Lord, you equip the called, you don't call the equipped. And so we trusted God had a plan.
And they kept saying, what about China? So we're like, okay, well, we'll switch to China, that's fine. And we started out like really minor special needs. And then as our journey went along, there was this point with All God's Children at that time where they sent a list of like, I don't even remember, 30 kids or something. And they just said, look through these because there's a lot of different special needs that you've maybe not seen and just see what you're open to. And cute little Quentin was on there, our little boy. He was one of the first ones.
He just seemed super happy, and he was kind of chubby a little bit, and just, I don't know, he just looked like a beautiful child.
When we first saw his picture, it said intestinal fistula repaired. And so I asked some of the doctors, like, what do you think about that? And they're like, that's just really vague. Like, we don't know what that means. And then by the next time it came with Quentin, it said anal atresia. So I looked that up and I was like, oh, it's a little more intense, but we just knew, like, this is our son. And thankfully, we didn't know everything. So thankful that the Lord didn't at that time have everything out there. We might have been scared. We had told our girls just to expect that, this baby's probably gonna be traumatized and really sad and might cry a lot and just give it some space. And then Quentin came home and he was just happy and funny and immediately interacted with them. We decided to go to Seattle because they do the best treatment around here for this anal atresia. They had some of the best doctors in the United States for that. They checked all this and they said, he doesn't have anal atresia. And I remember that day we're like, well, what does he have? I mean, he's got a colostomy bag. And they said, we don't know, but he doesn't have that. And I remember the doctor saying, but there is one thing we should rule out. I'm 99% certain he doesn't have it, but we should rule out this thing called Hirschsprung's disease. The doctor called a couple of days later, I think, or maybe we went up one more time and they did the biopsy. And then he called and said, I'm really sorry to tell you, he does have Hirschsprung's. You need to come back up. We need to figure out how much of the colon is affected. Because Hirschsprung's disease is where there's a section of the colon that doesn't have the ganglion cells to move the stool along, so you need to cut that out. I remember going up for that surgery, and the plan was to just cut out that section, pull it down, hook it up, and he'd be done with that. And so we went into surgery, and the doctor talks to you on the phone from the operating room, and he said his whole colon has this Hirschsprung's disease. The whole thing has to be taken out. So for me, because I'm a nurse, I just right away am looking this all up, and I'm like, this is so bad. This is total colonic Hirschsprung's. Like, this is really bad, Nathan. And Nathan was just so rock solid and just like, you know what, Janet, God's making diamonds. Like, he just wants us to trust. Quentin's no different yesterday than he is today. This does not surprise God. God's got this. And I just remember this piece of, that's so true. Like, God has this. If his birth family had left a note that said this boy has total colonic Hirschsprung's, Nathan and I would have been like, oh no, like that's way too much than our family can handle. And I'm just so glad we didn't know, because it's totally manageable. He does amazing. You would never know he has it. Most people don't know that he has anything.
I praise God for this little one. He's perfect, even though he has no colon. He loves all of us. He has a perfect plan, and this child, Quentin, has changed our family. He's given us a new heart and a love for the lost and the orphans and those that are in need.
I would say for anybody, if God puts adoption on your heart, just pray about it, and I don't think he's gonna say no.
It's amazing. If adoption's on your heart, go for it. And this little boy's changed me forever.